Good afternoon, everyone. I'm John McLaurin. I'm president of the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association, and I want to welcome you to the 2021 State of the Port event. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, we are unable to hold this event as we have in the past, somewhere on the San Pedro waterfront, having lunch and enjoying each other's company. But we are able to hold this event virtually. While the coronavirus has been the greatest public health crisis that the world has faced, the Port of Los Angeles continues to thrive thanks to the hard work of our marine terminals, ocean carriers, ILWU, railroads, and thousands of truckers and warehouse workers. Because of all of their hard work, the port continues to be the nation's leading trade gateway. The proceeds from the events today go to two worthwhile organizations, the Southern California Seafarer Center and EXP. Both organizations provide valuable services to our community. The Seafarer Center provides much needed resources to those that work on board our vessels. And EXP provides mentoring, internships, and guidance for thousands of high school students, exposing them to the job opportunities in our industry. Over the years, this event has raised over $100,000 for these two worthwhile programs. We are grateful for all of our sponsors today, but especially for our gold sponsors, the Pacific Maritime Association and Toyota. And at this point, I would like to show a short video by Toyota.
We understand what this technology's tremendous potential can be, and the meaningful benefit that fuel cell technology can make to society as a true zero emissions powertrain for the future.
It was just under 4 years ago that Toyota introduced a true zero-emission heavy-duty truck to the Port of Los Angeles. The truck is an engineering marvel. It's a fully functional, zero-emission, Class 8 heavy-duty truck built to deliver the kind of power and performance needed to support transporting container operations at the port and to the logistics distribution centers.
To meet our clean air goals and to meet our climate goals, we really need to transform our transportation fleet into a zero-emission fleet.
It's a technology that's so desperately needed for California and for our world.
The Class 8 truck is powered by the fuel cell stacks from two Toyota Mirai sedans and a remarkably small 12 kilowatt-hour battery.
And that allows them to haul 80,000 pounds with zero emissions. It's going to lead to much bigger things and have a great impact here to reduce the emissions at the port.
Toyota Logistics Services and Southern Counties Express each will receive a Kenworth T680 Class 8 truck powered by a Toyota fuel cell electric drivetrain. Both of these zero-emissions trucks will be used for drayage operations in the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach as part of the Customer Pilot Program.
That will be part of our process towards launching something that will allow all the trucks in the port to operate at zero emissions, which is up to 15,000 trucks.
An additional 8 trucks will be delivered this year as part of the ZAN-ZEF program. 3 of the 8 trucks will go to United Parcel Service for its port operations, while 2 of the 8 trucks will go to Total Transportation Services, another prominent port operator. Toyota Logistics Services will also receive 3 additional trucks.
Medium and heavy-duty trucks that will be able to bring the zero-emission experience and universe to the commercial and business users necessary to meet future climate and environmental regulations and laws.
Development of the Kenworth T680 fuel cell electric vehicle is part of a $41 million zero and near zero emissions freight facilities grant awarded by the California Air Resources Board, with the Port of Los Angeles as the prime applicant.
Toyota is going to continue its push to green the ports of LA and Long Beach. The next 5 years is going to be a very exciting time for all zero-emission vehicles, but especially for hydrogen.
2 new large-capacity, heavy-duty hydrogen fueling stations are now under construction by Shell and will join the 3 additional stations located at Toyota facilities around Los Angeles to form an integrated 5-station heavy-duty hydrogen fueling network. Together, it'll provide multiple sources of hydrogen throughout the region, including over 1 ton of 100% renewable hydrogen per day at the heavy-duty station to be operated by Shell, enabling zero-emissions freight transport. Stations supplied by Air Liquide at Toyota Logistics Services in Long Beach and Toyota Technical Center in Gardena will serve as important research and development locations.
At Toyota, I've been working on this program for 20 years. All these things coming together feels like the hydrogen ecosystem is really off to a real start now. I can assure you and I can say that for us it is a labor of love, and we create the blueprint for other states and other parts of the world to hopefully learn from, making real inroads into markets and pushing the zero-emission goal of Toyota for all of the transportation systems to reality.
I also want to thank everyone at the Port of Los Angeles for their assistance and support and commitment for using this event to bring our community together. We appreciate the support of the Board of Harbor Commissioners, Gene Seroka, and all of the staff at the Port of Los Angeles. I would now like to introduce Los Angeles City Council member Joe Buscaino, who represents the 15th Council District, which includes the Port and the communities of San Pedro, Wilmington, Harbor City, Harbor Gateway, and Watts. Councilmember Buscaino is the President Pro Tem of the Los Angeles City Council. He is also chair of the City Council's Trade, Tourism, and Travel Committee, and he is also a member of the South Coast Air Quality Management District. Prior to his election to the City Council, Joe served for 15 years as an officer in the Los Angeles Police Department. Joe and his family are longtime residents of San Pedro. Please welcome Councilmember Joe Buscaino.
Thank you, John, and hello, everyone. First, I want to wish you all a happy new year with hopes for a much better 2021. My prayers go out to everyone who has lost a loved one or has suffered because of the pandemic. After a year of profound hardship across the world, I see 2021 as a year of promising news and developments. A year that will put our city and our nation on track for a new era of innovation and opportunity. The events of 2020 reminded us of the fragility of our place in nature. We must always be prepared to pivot and change direction in the face of the challenges that come our way. 2020 also reminded us that the importance of the Port of Los Angeles, not just as an economic engine and jobs generator, but as a force to help our society in times of crisis. Gene Seroka and his team at the port were able to apply their supply chain technology and expertise to help our city combat COVID-19, all while keeping the cargo moving. And during the second half of 2020, our outstanding labor workforce, port terminals, railroads, and truckers worked hard to process more month-to-month containerized cargo than this gateway has ever seen. Amidst the pandemic, the port continued its progress toward building a new Wilmington waterfront and the San Pedro Town Square and Promenade adjacent to the future West Harbor visitor destination, which will include a 6,000-seat amphitheater. I want to thank the port for staying on course with these projects as they provide more than 3,000 one-year equivalent jobs and are key to our port's future success. Lastly, I want to acknowledge and thank the cargo owners for their business. Seaborne trade through our gateway is a major economic force here in LA region, and I can assure you that Gene and his team are continuously focused on initiatives that deliver efficiency and value to American businesses engaged in global trade. Thank you also to PMSA and all the sponsors for making the 2021 virtual State of the Port possible. And to our audience across the country and overseas, I wish you all good health and prosperity in the year ahead.
Thank you, Joe, for your comments. It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Gene Seroka, who is the Executive Director of the Port of Los Angeles, the busiest container port in North America. Gene was nominated as the Executive Director of the Port by Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti in May of 2014, and since Gene's appointment, the Port has experienced historic and record-breaking performances. Gene brings to the Port more than 33 years of experience in shipping and global logistics. And during his time at the Port, Gene has been appointed to serve on multiple federal committees focused on enhancing the speed and efficiency of cargo movement and supply chain optimization. He currently serves as the chair of the California Association of Port Authorities. In light of all of Gene's accomplishments and undertakings, probably the most important has been his responsibilities under the COVID-19 global health crisis. While maintaining his duties as the port's executive director, he leads Logistics Victory Los Angeles to assist in getting critical healthcare and emergency supplies into the hands of those who need them most. All of us in the trade community appreciate Gene's leadership, but as residents of California, we appreciate his humanitarian efforts to make our state a safer place. At this time, please welcome our keynote speaker, Gene Seroka.
Thank you, John. Hello and welcome to the Port of Los Angeles. I'm speaking to you today from the bow of the historic Battleship Iowa Museum here on the LA waterfront. I want to extend our gratitude to the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association for organizing what is now our 6th annual State of the Port event. I also want to thank the Pacific Maritime Association, Toyota, and all of our sponsors. As John mentioned, it's because of you that we can continue to support EXP and our Seafarer Center. As always, special thanks to Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, our council member Joe Buscaino, and the entire LA City Council. Also, our Harbor Commission President Jamie Lee, our commissioners, and our port staff. Thank you all for your unwavering support during this trying period. In any other year, we would come together on this occasion for lunch and networking, but this is not any other year. One advantage of this virtual event is that it gives us greater reach to the many stakeholders, both near and far, who have a connection with our port. To all of you, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your interest and engagement with the Port of Los Angeles. Last year, I announced a list of top priorities. In spite of all the unexpected events of 2020, I am happy to report that we accomplished or significantly advanced each and every one of them. We said we would stay the course on our industrial and waterfront capital development programs, and we did. We said we would expand our digital services, and we did that as well. We continue to lead in the global smart ports movement. We also led the nation in testing and development of zero-emissions drayage trucks and cargo handling equipment. We did that because we are committed to achieving our goal of a smart, zero-emissions port. In a year of great difficulty, we stayed the course on our priorities. Yet, like many of you, we were called to do so much more. Our container business, the port's primary economic driver, was the most erratic that we have seen to date. By May of 2020, our volume had plunged nearly 19%. Then, in the second half of the year, American consumer demand created a pandemic-induced buying surge that our economy has never seen before. Our second half volume increased nearly 50%. The week before Christmas, we handled twice as much cargo as we did in the same week of 2019. For the calendar year in 2020, we processed a total of 9.2 million 20-foot equivalent units, or TEUs. That's about a percentage point and a half shy of our 2019 volume and still ranks number 4 among our 5 highest volume years. In 2020, under the weight of the surge, everybody in the cargo industry took a hit, from ocean carriers all the way to our local package delivery vans. All of us are stretched. No one escaped criticism, and we're still moving extraordinary levels of cargo. Our ILWU longshore workforce adapted to the huge swings in volume. By August, we were down nearly 234,000 labor shifts, and that hurt all of us. Then, when cargo roared back, the ILWU handled the historic surge, going to work day in and day out. So did the thousands of port truckers, our Los Angeles marine terminals, and everyone else moving goods box by box. Thank you all for your hard work, both last year and now. In nearly all of our other lines of business, we saw deep declines. Cruise operations worldwide took a drastic hit, and so did our visitor-serving waterfront businesses. Vehicle import volumes were down, in line with steep sales declines. Ongoing trade tensions continued to depress steel volume. Liquid bulk dropped because so few of us have traveled. Only perishable products remained unimpeded, based on another healthy crop from the west coast of South America. But hardest hit of all were our exports. Rarely have we seen a time when only 1 in 4 containers returning to Asia was loaded with cargo. In spite of these stats, the real story in 2020 is how our port community came together. The way we responded to the challenges, kept commerce moving, and preserved jobs is a story that we will all remember for a long time to come. COVID-19 affects everything we do. It has altered the lives and livelihoods of billions around the world. So many have suffered financial hardships, the loss of jobs or businesses. Far too many have endured the loss of family members, friends, and colleagues. In this time of crisis, we were called to be responsible. We focused on what we could do to have the greatest positive impact. We were called to be resourceful. We mobilized and made things work. We were called to be resilient. We showed we had the strength to bend with the times, but never break. Responsible, resourceful, and resilient. Just like this famous battleship I stand on today, 2020 demonstrated our collective resolve to fight and defeat a common enemy. That is the spirit from which we draw inspiration in these unprecedented times. That's the spirit making us fight for the health and safety of those around us, both at work and at home. And it's because of that spirit, the state of our port is stronger than ever, and 2020 may well be remembered as our finest year. In those early frantic days of the pandemic, that spirit was embodied by our mayor. He led our city to respond, including this port. While some leaders passed the blame, he worked with our state, county, and city leaders to share responsibility. Let's hear a brief message from Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti.
Thank you so much, Gene. And hello, everyone. It's great to join you for the 2021 State of the Port. To the PMSA, to Toyota, and to all of our sponsors, let me thank you for continuing this special tradition at the Port of Los Angeles. Los Angeles is one of the world's great centers of trade, of commerce, and that's because of our great Port of Los Angeles. Our success is a credit to the cargo owners who place their trust in us and to the tireless efforts of our longshore workers, our terminal operators, our truck drivers, and all of the essential workers across the supply chain who keep our economy moving even in the toughest of times. Los Angeles has often called on its port to lead, and when I appointed Gene as the port's executive director, we charted a course not just to be first in volume, but to be a port of impact. To impact climate change by recognizing the 2020s as the decade of action and committing to build a zero-emissions future. To connect Angelenos with jobs and more fully realize the promise that commercial success translates into stronger communities. And to help Los Angeles rediscover and to redefine its maritime heritage through waterfront access and development. And in 2020, amidst the largest public health crisis that we've ever seen and a broken medical supply chain, to reveal the true character of this city by leading an extraordinary effort called Logistics Victory LA, or Love LA. In March, I asked Gene to serve as this city's first ever Chief Logistics Officer on top of his responsibilities at the port. This mission was to build the city's stockpile of personal protective equipment for our workers and our hospitals. And in just 7 days, Gene's team, together with our general services and emergency management departments, stood up what was essentially a new city department. To date, Love LA has provided more than 4.6 million units of PPE to 36 LA area hospitals and 150 skilled nursing facilities. That was much more than a logistics victory. That is work that has saved lives. So thank you to everyone who's played their part in that extraordinary effort. And I also want to thank our Board of Harbor Commissioners, the port staff, and all of you as stakeholders for demonstrating how much you love LA. So stay strong and stay healthy, and I'll see you at the next State of the Port.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti. I also want to recognize California Governor Gavin Newsom and you for your efforts to bring the United States Navy ship Mercy to our port to back up our local hospitals during the pandemic's first surge. Throughout 2020, Many of us were compelled to assume roles we never expected. At the start of the crisis, the PMA and ILWU rapidly developed protocols for sanitizing terminal equipment and telecommunications devices between labor shifts. Liquid sanitizer, however, was extremely hard to find. We were in a pinch until the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power came through with 1,400 gallons of industrial bleach. Our construction and maintenance workers diluted it to CDC standards. They filled spray bottles with the solution and delivered them to every marine terminal here in the San Pedro Bay so we could keep the cargo moving and our workers safe. This spirit of duty and responsibility was shared across the port community. Logistics Victory Los Angeles became a channel for donations and support from many organizations, including Harbor Freight and Tools, Toyota, the Consulate of Japan here in Los Angeles, the Apple Corporation, Operation USA in Wilmington, the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor, and so many others. I want to especially thank CMA CGM for its numerous donations of PPE, shipping containers, emergency equipment, and thousands of turkeys and cooked meals this past Thanksgiving. Where we could, we assisted efforts to provide coronavirus testing, flu shots, and food to essential workers, from California's farm workers to the workers right here at our port. We continue to advocate for prioritized testing and vaccinations for workers in the maritime supply chain. Our Harbor Department employees have also been a consistent and positive force throughout this crisis. Since March, hundreds have worked from home. More than half of our 920 employees are still telecommuting and keeping the business of the port on track. 221 employees also took city disaster service worker assignments. They staffed COVID testing sites, did contact tracing, and helped those experiencing homelessness. Lastly, as mentioned by the mayor, Love LA would not be a success without the talented team of port and city employees that continue its mission today. Here is what the experience has meant to some of them.
When I first heard of Love LA's mission, I was kind of relieved in a way because it felt like we could be part of doing something positive.
I grew up in Los Angeles my whole life, so I just wanted to see if it was one way for me to help out during these times.
I wanted to be able to help in some capacity in getting supplies to our medical workers.
Started with a small group, and what I love about it is it expanded quickly, and you saw a lot of the team members really embrace the mission.
We all have different specialized skills, and we're all just putting those to work.
It was just like, hey, we're together with Love LA, let's make this thing work.
I think the spirit behind Love LA was get it done, whatever it takes.
There was a big shortage in the beginning, and there was a lot of fake equipment out there.
At the beginning, it was very sad when you would hear about hospitals not having gowns and having to use garbage bags to help patients. And so, in the beginning, it was very challenging.
As challenging as some of the days may have seemed to me, I always knew that, frankly, it was nothing compared to what the healthcare workers that we were trying to get items to were dealing with, and it was the least that we could do.
The most gratifying experience with Love LA, I think, is seeing the big numbers of donations that we've been able to get and get out.
That all just kind of gelled together into what has delivered millions of pieces of PPE to area hospitals and skilled nursing facilities.
You can tell that people really are doing their best out there, and they're so grateful for any kind of help.
I feel every day is rewarding because I know every day we're working on something to help somebody out.
The thing I think I will take away from this is knowing that I was a part of something during this crisis that helped.
Logistics Victory, Los Angeles.
Thank you to all our Love LA and DSW volunteers. Your service will be remembered as among the port's most enduring contributions during the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the most remarkable experiences of the last year was the profound sea change in the way so many Americans came to accept the reality of systemic racism. Many of us now have a deeper understanding of why we need to fight for racial equity. The events of last year provided us with a glimpse into the painful experience people of color face every day. They made us all confront a sober truth. Each and every one of us is responsible. Last June, Mayor Garcetti signed Executive Directive 27, Racial Equity in Government, which calls on us to translate our ideals into action. It directs our city leaders and hiring managers to make sure that all in our community are given the opportunity to thrive and reach their full potential. Here's what that means for our port. We need a workforce that looks like LA, that reflects the beautiful diversity of this city in the faces of the women and men who come to work here every day. Our late Commissioner Dave Arian called on us to do the right thing for everyone in this community who needs a job. We heard him, and we remain committed to a Port Workforce Training Center that takes a high road approach to workforce development and advances our goal of racial equity. This includes opportunities for those who have paid their debt to society and are ready to return to the workforce. Programs for high school interns and student worker opportunities for young women and men of color are also in the offing. In the years ahead, the nature of work will change across our supply chain, and we need to take action to bring our workforce along. From the STEM work we support through programs like EXP, to our hiring practices and promotion policies, we have so much opportunity to model a better society. That's why we're committed to working with the Mayor's Office of Racial Equity. Our own Rhonda Glenn runs our efforts here at the Port, leading the work to advance these initiatives and turn those ideals into action. As we move forward, let me say this unequivocally. We will not tolerate racism, and we are committed to confronting and eradicating it. The Port's role as a trade gateway is the foundation upon which we serve the economy. When we say more cargo equals more jobs at America's port, we recognize the port as a source for public good that drives workforce development, environmental sustainability, and infrastructure investment. This year, our port will accelerate economic recovery in 3 ways. First, we will focus on our value proposition by taking a hard look at the cost of moving goods through our port and finding the right mix of levers to grow our market share. Second, we will build a stronger alignment at the regional, state, and national levels of government to support competitiveness. In 2021, as we talk about national infrastructure investment, we need to ensure more balanced investment approaches in our freight system. Over the last decade, federal investment in West Coast ports has trailed other coasts by a margin of 10-1. That needs to change. Working with the ILWU, PMA, and other West Coast ports, we will marshal a coalition to fight for our fair share of funding. We were encouraged when Congress acted last month to pass the Water Resources Development Act of 2020, which includes significant reforms to return harbor maintenance tax revenues to donor ports like us here in Los Angeles. Third, we will align policy, programs, and investment support of our export community, nationally and right here in California. U.S. manufacturers and farmers should be among the first to receive dedicated attention from our policymakers. Everyone benefits when we make it easier for American businesses to access foreign markets, create economic opportunity, and reduce their carbon footprint. There's one more key to competitiveness, and that's capacity. Capacity for high-performance port-wide operations. The unprecedented import surge in the second half of last year once again highlighted the need for supply chain optimization. Operational inefficiencies impede our industry. That's not something any one organization can solve on their own. We need everyone at the table, stakeholders across our supply chain community and the policymakers who must respond to the needs of businesses nationwide that rely on our port. One major issue we continue to face is drayage inefficiency. Long turn times and lack of dual transactions are especially frustrating for those thousands of hardworking truckers who serve our port. Terminal operators can affect positive change in this area. So this month, we are going to our board with a proposed truck turn time and dual transaction incentive program that pays our container terminals for monthly turn time improvements. We not only want faster turn times, we want to keep those turns efficient. So a trucker can bring a box to a terminal and leave with another one instead of going away empty. This incentive is all about testing that mix of levers I mentioned earlier, exploring real opportunities to improve port performance, attract more business, and create more jobs. There are other resources that can help us work smarter. The most immediate advance we can make is digital maturity, because it makes us more efficient and more effective. In October, our San Pedro Bay ports processed a combined 1.8 million container units. It wasn't easy or painless, but it demonstrated our capability and, more importantly, our potential. For our gateway to routinely handle that volume of cargo in the future, we will need everyone in this complex to participate in our digital system of systems. Data is a critical resource. Right now, the Federal Aviation Administration knows the exact location of every plane in the sky over the U.S. and over the oceans. That system ties in with a global network that keeps the world flying safely and on time. Through our Port Optimizer data portal, we enable that kind of digital maturity in our supply chain so users can locate every container en route to our port and make plans to keep it moving. If we want America to improve as a leader in global trade, we need nationwide port data connectivity with agreed upon data standards and open architecture, a system that provides interconnectivity between major U.S. ports, service providers, and the freight they move. As import cargo surged, we used key data from the Port Optimizer to create the Signal, a data dashboard using real-time feeds and backed with strong analytics that let us view containerized volume 3 weeks in advance of its arrival here to LA. That's a competitive advantage that other ports don't have. Signal updates posted daily on our website help cargo owners and their service providers better plan and manage the movement of their goods through our port. In November, we introduced the Return Signal data dashboard, integrated data updated in real time to let port truckers know when and where empty containers can be returned. It helped, but we must continue to push for a port-wide truck reservation system to manage the more than 60,000 truck moves a day. The Signal and Return Signal are provided as a service of the Port of Los Angeles. We do this to help our cargo owners. In further pursuit of our digital maturity, today I'm excited to announce that we will introduce another data solution called the Control Tower. We are developing the Control Tower with our partners at Wabtec in response to other needs and challenges we heard from our industry stakeholders. It will provide the port supply chain with high-level metrics, key performance indicators, and features that include real-time port-level views of truck turn times, truck capacity management information, and detailed rail velocity metrics. As we progress through 2021, we will continue to expand our data tools and provide forward-looking along with historical data around port operations, all designed to use advanced data to help our stakeholders make smarter and more informed planning decisions. This capability supports greater throughput and is designed to maintain the proprietary nature of cargo data and prevent the weaponization of port data. As I mentioned, just one more lever. Working with the local marine exchange, cargo terminals, and ocean carriers, we're building an integrated data system that will guarantee consistent value and efficiency to cargo owners we serve. Sharing data requires trust. The discovery of widespread foreign cyber espionage targeting the U.S. government is our latest reminder of why we need to protect supply chain data. Since the pandemic began, cyber intrusion attempts on our IT system have nearly doubled to 45 million per month. Our cybersecurity safeguards protect us against those intrusions, but other maritime entities have suffered costly and debilitating attacks. Those are the types of attacks we want to prevent with our Cyber Resilience Center, the first of its kind here in North America. Last month, we announced a partnership with IBM that will accelerate the development of the center to our major customers and stakeholders to prevent cyber attacks. With IBM under contract, 2 days ago we held our first stakeholder meeting on this top priority effort. In 2020, we were responsible, resourceful, and resilient. Amidst all the challenges, we stood tall. Yes, cargo and maritime activity was set back by our global health and economic crisis. However, when the institution you run is 113 years old, you learn not to compare a down year to the one that came before it. You focus on the years of growth that will rise out of what we learned from an extraordinary series of events. 2020 also reminded everyone that our collective response to climate risk cannot take a back seat to current events. For that reason, we continue to advance our Clean Air Action Plan. We understand the urgency for cleaner air. We live and work here. And in 2020, we continued the work toward our goals of zero emissions terminal equipment by the year 2030 and a zero emissions drayage truck fleet by the year 2035. Today, we're involved in 16 demonstration projects, testing 134 units of advanced equipment, including 78 zero emissions trucks. They're either on the road or being assembled right now. What's encouraging is after more than a decade of proofs of concept, we're starting to have real discussions with truck manufacturers about what it will take to make a zero emission equipment market right here in Los Angeles. Because our goal is to have the equipment deployed first at the Port of LA. Keep in mind that at current prices, the cost of transitioning our drayage providers to zero emissions trucks runs upwards of $10 billion US. That's 10 billion with a B. And that figure does not include the considerable public and private sector costs of planning and installing region-wide infrastructure to support these trucks. Last March, our board committed to a clean truck rate to contribute funding to this effort. But achieving the scale of fleet turnover like this, using technology that is still in development, requires much more than the rate alone. So to keep pace, last October in partnership with Mayor Garcetti, we put out a request for information soliciting input from private companies on how we might accelerate our progress on zero emissions. Simply put, to get there faster. Today, January 14th, is the deadline for responses to that RFI. In the coming weeks, we look forward to reviewing the ideas from some of the most innovative companies in the world on how we can accelerate our shift to greener technology. Make no mistake, this monumental effort is our Apollo project. It's a mission that will take all of us working together, local, state, and federal agencies, alongside the energy providers and private industry. There's a lot of focus on drayage, but let's also remember the 2030 goal of having zero emissions cargo handling equipment in our terminals. We're doing the same with that program, moving as fast as the current technology allows. But we're inside that crucial 10-year window now. We must advance in this area. Without interruption, we kept our capital improvement program moving forward in 2020. Totaling nearly $473 million. Our current projects include 8 major terminal, rail, and roadway improvements. We're deepening our berths for larger ships and creating more railroad storage tracks, on-dock capacity, and rail throughput capability between our docks and the all-important Alameda Corridor. We're continuing to modernize our liquid bulk terminals, and we're focused on roadway improvements to align with our operations and efficiency goals. We also remain committed to the harbor community that we serve. It hurts to see so many local businesses struggling, and in some cases, closing their doors. We want to see them return, and one way we can help is by continuing to work on our public waterfront infrastructure projects. Last year, we broke ground on the 9-acre, $71 million Wilmington waterfront promenade at Banning's Landing, the birthplace of our port. and the $33 million town square at Harbor Boulevard and 6th Street. South of the town square, you can also see construction of a nearly mile-long public walkway alongside our main channel. It will ultimately lead to the $150 million West Harbor Commercial Retail and Entertainment Center, breaking ground this year and opening Phase 1 late next year in 2022. Leaders at Altasea are also moving forward, securing agreements and initial permits for a 2.2 megawatt rooftop solar power system that will keep Altasea on track to complete their Warehouse 58 renovation in 2022. Last month, the San Pedro Fish Market, a fixture on our waterfront since 1956, announced plans to build a new restaurant and entertainment attraction at the foot of the iconic Vincent Thomas Bridge. In addition, this historic battleship, the USS Iowa, remains on course to become the National Museum of the Surface Navy by the year 2025. Yes, this pandemic has caused great hardship to many businesses. To that end, I want to extend a heartfelt thanks to all our maritime and visitor-serving customers for their continued investments in our future here at the Port of Los Angeles. In the depths of our challenges this past year, we were resilient. Because of this, there's one more R word we can take from 2020. That word is resurgent. We have endured crisis in the past, like the Great Recession, from which we took more than a decade to recover. It won't be like that this time. We're positioning ourselves to bounce back faster. We will bounce back better. We already are. These difficult times are not behind us. Resurgence is not the same as recovery. But with promising COVID-19 vaccines slowly beginning to circulate, we believe 2021 will be America's year of resurgence. Let's not, however, be hamstrung by backwards policies. I've lived all over the world, and America and its democratic institutions are a model for the world. If we are to reassert our leadership, we must first reassert our commitment to the principles of our democracy. We have a new administration about to take office in Washington, and with it, an opportunity to put America back in the driver's seat when it comes to international trade and collaboration. America first should never mean America alone. We must repair and rebuild relationships with our allies, reset trade relations, and help American farmers and manufacturers regain their foothold in overseas markets. As the nation's largest gateway of containerized trade, we continue to advocate for balanced, rules-based trade policies that help the United States compete on a global scale. Our current decline in exports mean other nations are gaining market share at the expense of U.S. businesses. In addition, the present import tariffs are nothing more than taxes on American companies and consumers at a time when we need to put Americans back to work. There are presently more than 9 million unemployed Americans, a disproportionate number of whom are people of color. Our families need good-paying jobs and a better future for our children. Growing our nation's export capacity will create jobs, and on average, workers in America's export industries earn higher wages. International collaboration also extends to our environmental and digitization goals. Mayor Garcetti and our friend Nagoya Mayor Takashi Kawamura forged an MOU between our ports to develop green hydrogen-powered equipment. That agreement joins MOUs with the Indonesia Port Corporation and Copenhagen Malmö Port to advance supply chain digitization. And in 2021, we will continue to engage with the global port community through the International Association of Ports and Harbors, the C40 Cities Network, and other forums focused on sustainability and climate change. In 2021, we will keep our focus on jobs, infrastructure improvements, the environment, supply chain optimization, and the continued development of our commercial waterfront. These core areas are where we have focused in recent years, and we're not about to stop. Because if there's something else we've learned from 2020, it's this: the future is not guaranteed. We all have to build it. History teaches us that every pandemic is followed by profound societal and technological transformations that have moved humankind forward. In the 14th century, the plague in Europe was followed by the printing press, access to all the books and knowledge of antiquity, the Renaissance, and the age of exploration. In the 1600s, the plague in London was followed by the scientific revolution, the age of reason, and the rise of modern democracy. Just a century ago, the Spanish flu was followed by the Roaring '20s, when radio connected every home in America to culture and news, and airlines made it possible to cross this great country in a single day. Big changes, big steps forward, and now it's 2021, and here we are again. What will come after this pandemic? That depends on us. Let's take responsibility for our future. Let's take responsibility for our resources. And let's take responsibility for one another as we continue to build America's port. Thank you, and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you, Gene, for a wonderful and informative presentation. This concludes the 2021 State of the Port event. In addition to Gene, I would like to thank again the Board of Harbor Commissioners and all of the people at the Port of Los Angeles for their support for this event and for all of their hard work. Thanks also to our gold sponsors, Toyota and the Pacific Maritime Association, and for all of our sponsors for their generosity in providing much needed funds to two very worthwhile organizations, EXP and the Seafarers Center. And thanks to all of you for watching. Please be safe, take care of yourself, and take care of your families. Thank you.